Today on Mythos Most Wanted, we will be looking at the American myth of the Jersey Devil and its crimes against the living. They say that deep in the pine barrens of southern New Jersey, a cursed creature stalks the trees. It is spoken of in hushed tones, the kind of folklore children dare each other to summon, and adults quietly believe. But what happens when myth crosses into murder? When the howls in the night aren't just legend, but evidence? This is not a ghost story. This is the criminal case of the Jersey Devil, a case that has haunted investigators, psychiatrists, and folklorists alike for centuries. What began as colonial paranoia would evolve into something much darker, more brutal, and very real. Before the United States was even a country, something older took root in New Jersey's Pine Barrens. In 1735, Jane Leeds, a midwife, widow, and woman marked by poverty, became pregnant with her 13th child. The locals already called her Mother Leeds, though few used the title with kindness. Rumors swirled: witch, whore, devil's consort. She was none of those things, but she was exhausted, broken, and alone. On a storm-racked night in early February, Jane went into labor in her crumbling cottage. She screamed through the pain, not in prayer, but in defiance. Let this one be the devil. Some say it was a curse. Others believe it was a deal, one final offering to whatever ancient force listened in the dark. What happened next defied the natural order. Midwives present said the child was born normal, even quiet. Then it changed. Hooves replaced toes. Leather wings tore through the infant's back. Its eyes opened. Not newborn, but ancient. One midwife screamed. The creature flew into a rage, tore through the others, and vanished up the chimney, shrieking into the night. That cottage was found days later, empty. No bodies, just blood. Just claw marks burned into the walls. Over the following decades, disappearances became common. Livestock was found drained of blood. Travelers spoke of terrible cries echoing through the pines, high-pitched, human, but wrong. People stopped calling it the child. They began calling it what Jane had named it, the devil. By the early 1800s, the Jersey Devil had become more than a ghost story. It had become part of the land. Generations of Pine Barren families passed down the legend, not as myth, but as warning. Children were told not to stray from the path. Hunters carried silver rounds, and on cold nights, the silence in the woods stretched just a little too long. Dozens of accounts filled local newspapers. Something winged attacking stagecoaches, a black shape gliding across the Mullica River under a blood moon, entire chicken coops slaughtered in a single night. In 1841, a man named Silas Jenkins claimed to shoot the creature with a musket. He died a week later, throat torn open, his rifle split in two. His house was found abandoned, the walls scratched with a single phrase, "I remember." Then came the outbreak of 1909. For one hellish week in January, chaos overtook New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania. Hundreds of sightings poured in from towns and cities alike. Residents awoke to hoofprints in the snow. Prints that began in fields, climbed over rooftops, and crossed rivers without ever breaking stride. Police fired shots at a creature in Bristol. It flew away, unfazed. Local mayors ordered schools shut. Armed posses roamed the woods. Churches overflowed with prayer and panic. Newspapers sold out daily, splashing headlines like, "What stalks our skies?" and "The devil walks among us." But behind the media frenzy were whispers of children gone missing, of entire barns reduced to piles of blood and frost. It wasn't a creature anymore. It was a phenomenon. And wherever belief spread, it followed. By the 1990s, most considered the Jersey Devil an urban legend. Something told around fires, not in courtrooms. But the quiet did not mean peace. It meant calculation. Between 1991 and 1994, a series of disappearances unfolded around Wharton State Forest. Hikers went missing. Wildlife surveys stopped cold. Rangers found deer ripped open with surgical precision, their carcasses completely drained of blood but untouched by scavengers. No tracks, no broken branches, as if something floated in and out. In August 1993, 19-year-old Dwayne Kelmer, a college student camping alone, was found dead beneath a toppled fire tower. His chest cavity had been surgically opened. The inside of the tower was smeared with symbols written in his own blood, but the strangest detail was what wasn't there. Insects. No flies. No rot. As if the area was preserved by something unnatural. That was when Special Agent Marla Keene entered the story. A newly appointed investigator for the Department of Paranormal Threat Assessment. She was one of the few willing to say the word cryptid in federal memos. Her team deployed thermal drones and electromagnetic sensors into the forest. Most of what they recorded was confiscated immediately. But Keene kept a handwritten log, frantic, desperate, honest. Her last entry read, "It doesn't feed like an animal. It feeds like an idea. It waits, it watches, and it knows we're watching back." And then she disappeared. Only her field journal was recovered, along with a final drone clip, blurry infrared footage of something with wings. It circled the team. Then it blinked out of existence. No blood, no bodies, just static. By 2007, the Jersey Devil had fallen off the national radar. No mainstream articles, no urgent sightings, but inside certain government agencies with no names, no public addresses, the entity had never left their watch lists. That year, a routine New Jersey State Police training exercise was approved for Wharton State Forest. The squad was composed of 5 elite officers, survival trained, GPS equipped, and heavily armed. They were briefed to expect terrain challenges, wildlife encounters, and extreme weather. What they encountered instead has never been fully explained. The squad entered the forest on October 12th. By nightfall, their GPS pings stopped transmitting. When dispatch reached out, the response came in a garbled, trembling voice. The last transmission, time-stamped 21:03 hours, was 12 seconds long. "We see it. My God, it's real. It's looking at us. It's not moving. It's just..." Unintelligible screaming, followed by static. Officially, the incident was ruled a training accident. The public was told the squad had gotten lost in inclement weather, but no bodies were ever recovered. No weapons, no gear, just torn scraps of tactical uniforms found dangling from trees, 30 feet above the ground. Months later, a whistleblower leaked infrared satellite scans captured during the operation. The images showed 4 heat signatures lying prone, one after the other, spaced precisely apart, as if arranged. A 5th, larger figure stood over them, wings spread, arms outstretched. The posture wasn't one of attack, it was ritual. Even stranger, the heat signatures persisted for 2 hours after the last human signal. Then, all 5 vanished. Not faded, vanished. Multiple internal reports, buried under redacted headers, referenced an operation codenamed Black Star Echo, a recovery mission that failed. The personnel involved were later reassigned, disappeared, or institutionalized. One of the surviving voice memos, never meant for public release, was recovered from the cell phone of Lieutenant Joseph Mars, the squad leader. His voice is broken, barely audible. "It's not an animal. It didn't kill us because we threatened it. It killed us because we entered. Like crossing a church barefoot, we didn't belong." In the final seconds of the recording, there's a distant sound. Not static, not wind. Something breathing. And then, a single sentence whispered in a chorus of voices. you keep forgetting. Then, in 2022, the unthinkable happened. The entity, codenamed JD-013, was captured during what insiders described as a containment convergence in the Pine Barrens. Details of the operation remain classified, but recovered bodycam footage showed a tranquilization team reduced to ash-black shadows. JD-013 appeared unharmed. It didn't resist. It wanted to be found. Transported under extreme lockdown protocols, JD-013 was flown to Blackstone Facility, a top-secret Nevada research compound constructed specifically to contain ontologically unstable threats, creatures whose existence defied natural law. The walls were reinforced with lead, silver, and salt. Surveillance was constant, yet the devil never flinched. Dr. Emil Vargas, a forensic psychiatrist trained in metaphysical cognition disorders, was assigned to conduct the intake evaluation. What followed was the most chilling 28 minutes of footage ever recorded under Blackstone's roof. The creature did not look at Dr. Vargas at first. It paced. It dragged one wing along the steel floor. When asked its name, it did not speak in English, not entirely. The recording captured overlapping voices. Male, female, young, old, and something that didn't belong in any known register. Dr. Vargas sat across from the entity known only as JD-013. The sterile silence of the Blackstone facility, broken only by the faint hum of the recording equipment. "You're safe here. We're not here to hurt you," he said gently. But the creature only cocked its head, its voice overlapping in discordant whispers, as it replied, "Safe is a word for prey." Vargas steadied himself and asked, "Do you have a name?" The being leaned slightly forward, eyes unblinking. "I was born in blood, made in prayer, shaped by fear," it said. "I am what you made me." Vargas's voice wavered as he pressed further. "Why do you kill?" The room grew colder. JD-013 paused, then moved closer, the shadows curling behind it like smoke. "Because you forget me." Vargas swallowed, almost whispering now. "What are you trying to remind us of?" The creature smiled, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "That the devil doesn't live below," it said. "He lives just past the tree line." Following this, JD-013 went silent. It turned its head toward the mirrored glass and said one final thing, not to Vargas, but to the unseen observers behind the wall. "You're recording this, but you'll never understand it. You study the fire. I am the reason it burns." The interview was terminated. All subsequent attempts at communication failed. The creature sat motionless for days, then began etching symbols into the cell's surface with its claws. The scratches began to form a language, repetitive, calculated, obsessive, a warning in code. Dr. Vargas would later admit, it didn't speak to answer. It spoke to implant something, a thought, a seed, and we let it take root. Dr. Vargas submitted his evaluation with clear, unnerving language. JD-013 displayed signs of hyperintelligence, ritualistic compulsion, and what he called narrative hunger. A drive not just to kill, but to become part of the cultural story of fear itself. In its isolation chamber, the creature etched sigils into the walls, none known to modern language. Some resembled inverted tridents, others ancient runes. Blood samples taken from JD-013 crystallized under light and regenerated in darkness. Its cells were anomalous, shifting, adapting. This was not an animal. It wasn't even a cryptid. Vargas concluded, this is a being created from belief, born of psychological pressure, cultural trauma, and ancient rage. JD-013 wasn't just a monster. It was a god we created, then tried to bury. The Jersey Devil has not faded into myth. If anything, it has adapted. It has become something more than a story, a virus in the cultural bloodstream. and like any virus, it waits for the right conditions to spread. Local law enforcement continues to receive strange reports. Animals drained of fluid, campers disappearing without a trace, surveillance cameras inexplicably melting inside wildlife stations. In 2024, a hunter in Batstow village uploaded a GoPro video before his disappearance. The footage showed him whispering, terrified, "It's following me." No sound, no footsteps, just watching. The screen went black. His body was never found. The footage was scrubbed from the internet within hours. But that's not the end. Military satellites monitoring Wharton State Forest have recorded thermal patterns no known creature could produce. Figures appearing at impossible temperatures, moving at unnatural speeds, only to vanish mid-frame. Experts say it's glitching the atmosphere. Analysts don't call it an animal anymore. They call it a sentient event. Whistleblowers from deep within US intelligence describe an ongoing initiative, Project Leeds, rumored to involve both psychological warfare testing and cross-dimensional threat analysis. According to a leaked memo, the project's core hypothesis is simple. The Jersey Devil is not a cryptid, it is a mimetic, apex predator, one that requires belief to sustain form and trauma to evolve. And what better time than now? In a world saturated with anxiety, unrest, and mass hysteria, the devil has fertile ground. It no longer needs to hunt. It lets the fear do the work. A shadow across the window, a scream in the trees, a pause in the wind. That's how it survives. That's how it grows. The locals know. They still leave offerings at the edge of the woods. Small bones, iron nails, scraps of food, hoping to appease what still breathes out there. Not out of superstition, but out of memory. Because the worst thing you can do to a story like this is forget it. So what do you do with a killer that can't be tried in court, caged in a cell, or buried in a grave? You don't forgive it. You don't fight it. You remember it. Because that's all it ever wanted. To be seen, to be feared, to be believed. The Jersey Devil is not a story. It's a pattern, a mirror. And somewhere in the dark, it's still listening for your scream. Because monsters don't die. They just wait. Another case closed. But in the world of gods, justice is never final. If you want more divine investigations, brutal truths, and mythological madness, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mythos Most Wanted. Your voice helps echo justice across the ages. And trust us, there are darker gods still waiting to be exposed.